Shortly after creating the Advanced Power Armor Mark I, the Enclave began work on creating a new model, a design that would be far superior to one of the best models of power armor ever created. The model they ended up with was a complete redesign, with only a few reminders of their original model. This new creation was deemed the Advanced Power Armor Mark II, but due to its starkly demonic look, the Enclave's enemies on the East Coast began calling it the Black Devil. In today's broadcast, we will be researching the lore of one of the most evil-looking power armor models ever created, the Black Devil Power Armor.
There are tales littered all across the wastelands of the old world. Within these tales are secrets, knowledge, and legends waiting to be told. I've traversed the boneyards of once great cities to collect these chronicles of post-apocalyptia. Some of these stories are beyond logical reasoning. Are these just radiation-poisoned brains conjuring up these myths, or is there some truth to be found in them? Only you can decide, as we step into the haze of Wastelord's legends.
Before we begin discussing this armor, we must address some issues to avoid confusion that may arise further into this video. First off, the Advanced Power Armor Mark II is the same armor seen in the capital Wasteland, as well as the one which was worn by the Chosen One and a select few of the Enclave on the West Coast. However, the armor seen on the East Coast is significantly weaker than the exact same model on the West Coast. So why is this? I have many theories. The one that makes the most sense to me is that because the Enclave was forced across the country 36 years before the Lone Wanderer meets them, they were unable to produce the armor with the same quality as their original Mark II. While 36 years might seem like plenty of time, it really isn't when you consider what they could bring through a post-nuclear hellscape with limited vertebrates being chased and attacked, as well as surviving out in the wastes without a permanent setup. When they finally did make the journey of at the very least 2,100 miles, they had only one main base to come home to. While they finally had a base of operations, it was far smaller than their oil rig. Furthermore, it no longer had all the best and brightest individuals like the original Enclave back in Navarro and the oil rig, as only a select amount survived the destruction and rampage of the Chosen One. On top of all this, the Mark I took around 22 years to create, although the last 5 years were presidentially mandated to be sped up. My point being is that developing and mass-producing power armor takes a while to accomplish, so I'd imagine all these trials and tribulations would account for why the Enclave's Advanced Power Armor Mark II was quite lacking on the East Coast. That being said, it was by no means a bad set of armor, as in terms of pure defense, it was on par with the T-45D. Now that we have discussed my reasoning on the quality issues with the model on the East Coast, let's dive into the entirety of its lore. The Mark II was developed sometime between 2220 and 2241, with my estimate being around the late 2230s, due to only one of these models being found by the Chosen One, showing that this armor was still being manufactured before it could begin replacing the Mark I suits. The Mark II is composed entirely of lightweight ceramic composites, rather than the usual combination of metal and ceramic plates, allowing it to be almost as light and just as agile when compared to the already lightweight and flexible Mark I. The Mark II on the West Coast gave even more protection than the Mark I, making it superior in every way when compared to the Mark I. Although I must admit, when it comes to aesthetics, the Mark I is far superior. When it comes to the external design of the Mark II, it is strikingly alien when compared to all other models before and after it. The color of the armor remains the default black of the Mark I, and surprisingly, that is pretty much the only similarity when it comes to these two armors. When it comes to the external design of the Mark II, it is strikingly alien when compared to all other models before and after it. The overall design of this model is incredibly insect-like in appearance. The leg design is very intricate and much thinner than the Mark I's legs. They also have exposed shocks on both segments of the legs, likely to help with mobility, weight distribution, and shock absorption. Moving up the armor onto the waist, it is completely solid, yet it still allows the user to be flexible due to the armor working like scales. This is an incredible advancement in power armor technology, because every armor prior to this model had some of its mid-region protected by a flexible material. And while this was definitely efficient and protected the users incredibly well, it was still a weak point that could be used to have an advantage over the armor. But with the Mark II, this is no longer an issue. Still looking at the midsection, there is a strange belt-looking tube system, and while I am unsure of its purpose, it looks like it could possibly act as the system's air intake or exhaust system. However, these are nothing more than educated guesses, and this belt tube system is heavily modified on the Mk2. Going up to the chest area of the armor, it is very basic and unchanged, and doesn't have anything of interest, other than the fact that it is angled inward, allowing the reduction of energy from attacks, as their impact isn't on a flat surface. This armor brings back the classic look of having pauldrons on the shoulders that add increased protection. Another thing this armor brought back was the original idea of only having 2 large tubes rather than many coming out of the helmet. But unlike previous models, this armor only has 2 small tubes coming from the torso of the armor into the face mask of the helmet. The 2 large tubes that this model does have stay on the torso of the suit. This change was likely made to allow the user to be more mobile when looking around, as this frees up the helmet even more. The helmet itself is incredibly smaller when compared to all other models, and while I'm sure this offers more mobility, it seems to be less protective, especially when considering the shock absorption of attacks to the head, as rather than acting as a chamber for the head, like the other models, it looks like a traditional helmet that rests on the user's head. This would almost certainly make the operator more susceptible to concussions, whiplash, and neck injuries. The helmet itself is extremely rigid and is a far cry from any official models before it. The top of the helmet has a strange piece facing the front of the armor, and while I'm unsure of what it is, I have a few ideas. The first being an additional light, yet I haven't ever been able to turn it on, nor have I ever seen it on. The second possibility is it could be a sensor that aids the user in navigation or sensing threats, and for the last idea I think it could be is that it works as some sort of radar dish or transmitting device. The helmet also has 2 strange horn-like protrusions sticking out the top. And while I'm unsure what these horns could be doing, it is clear they have a purpose, as they look like exhaust systems. While it's a mystery as to why these are here, it is the reason the Mark II got the name of Black Devil. The helmet also boasts the standard Enclave polarized eyepieces that act as the armor's headlights, and a special feature of them is that they glow a pale yellow in the dark. While ghastly in appearance, the Mark II still operates as any other model of powered combat armor, as it of course rests upon the same frame as the others that give it supernatural-like strength, the ability to stabilize the user, survive falls of unimaginable magnitude, and absorb the kinetic energy of attacks. The armor itself has an air filter, communication system, waste filtration system, and excellent protection from radiation. The Advanced Power Armor Mark II is a terrifying advancement in power armor technology. And even though it might be weaker on the East Coast, it is still far better than anything most Wastelanders could dream of. But of course, Enclave researchers began dreaming of how to improve it, and as such they made modifications and variants. The only variant I've discovered is the Tesla variant. The Mark II's Tesla variant has increased protection and radiation resistance, yet it isn't as strong, likely due to all the additional equipment taking away from the frame's ability to provide additional strength. The armor also has a copper finish, rather than the typical black surface. Although this makes sense, as copper is a great conduit, allowing for the electricity to spread over the suit more efficiently. It also has giant fusion tanks on its back that supply the intense energy that flow through the many power nodes and wires that cover the exterior of the suit. Other than offering additional protection, it likely acts as a weak force field. Additionally, it offers great protection from melee attackers by giving them a shock when they attack. This variant also allows the user to be more efficient with energy weapons, likely by overcharging the weapon's capacitor, allowing for a more deadly result. So Wastelanders, if you ever do find one of these models, be sure to hide and pray, as there is almost no shot in hell you will be able to take down one of these black devils. Folks, that has been all the lore for today's video, but before you go, I'd like to tell you all about the real-life lore of the Mark II. First off, it was introduced in Fallout 2 back in 1998, with only one model being able to be found in a locker in the oil rig. This model is actually 5 pounds heavier than the Mark I and is better in almost every way. While the design of the Mark I and the Mark II look identical in Fallout 2, this is most likely due to time constraints and budget, but it is mentioned in Fallout 3 as the suits we see are indeed the Mark II. Wastelanders, that has been all for this video. Thank you so much for watching till the end. I really do appreciate it. Be sure to give me a like if you enjoyed. Leave a comment down about what's your favorite power armor, which one you want to see next reviewed in the lore. And with all of that said, thank you all so much for watching, and may the Wasteland treat y'all with peace and prosperity.